Quite frankly, I'm risking my neck, literally, um, saying a lot of stuff that I'm saying online. I haven't said enough yet. I I may or may not say more than I am right now.
But you're
On the
here.
Iranian
But you're
sphere.
here. Now I know you
Yeah.
do have family back in Iran, right?
Yes.
So it is dangerous for them.
I mean, I'm worried about Iran. Yes, but outside of that, not that long ago, Spain was run by a fascist government, and the Soviet Union was still a thing. It's kind of like
Well, and Russia still is a thing.
and Russia is still a thing, and China. And
Yep.
it's very easy for this democracy that we have here or in the US to break up, and then whoever comes into power might not like what I said 10 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever. That's what worries me.
I, I think that's true. And look, we've just come out of 4 years in the United States where I really lived in fear. I'm Jewish. I am the child of Holocaust survivors. I have German citizenship because of the Holocaust. My grandparents got their German citizenship back, restored after many many years because they had been kicked out of Germany. My grandfather was in Buchenwald for 6 weeks before they let him go because he already had a visa to come to the United States. So like I have a family that lived through the worst of dictatorship and fascism and hate. And those lessons have been very deeply ingrained in me. And it's what caused my family to become extremely liberal, extremely democratic. My grandfather was a civil rights pioneer in Chicago and went to the March on Washington with Martin Luther King, and was a dear friend of Jesse Jackson's all of his life, and like really believed in civil rights, really believed in human rights, and passed that those feelings down to all of us in the family. So I understand where you're coming from, because but for literally a couple of weeks and a righteous Gentile in Frankfurt who managed to make it so that my grandfather could leave Germany, I would not be here. Right? Like literally, the space of a few weeks was the difference between me being here and not being here. So I'm a little bit emotional about that. So I understand that really well. So when Trump came into power, my son and I have German passports. My husband does not, but he could have come with us. He travels with us as a spouse. And Trump came into power. There was a lot of anti-Semitism in the United States. We started to get really worried. Our son, was in Hebrew school. We were going to synagogue, regularly, and clearly Jewishly identified.
So can I ask if
Yeah.
you're religious in terms of
We're not particularly religious. We're culturally Jewish.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But our son is he's going to have a bar mitzvah in January, and he's in Hebrew school and learning about the culture and learning the language a little bit, kind of learning the language. And my husband and I have both been to Israel a number of times, and he was much more Jewishly educated than I was. But yes, we live, I would say, a relatively secular but Jewish life. And so Trump comes to power. There's all this anti-Semitism in the world. And my husband and I kind of looked at each other and said, what are our choices? There were a lot of my friends who were really, really worried. We're like, how do we get to Canada, right? How do we move to Australia? Like, how do we get out of here? And we actually had an escape route because we had European passports. We still have European passports. And we said, wouldn't it be ironic? Like, the biggest irony of the world would be that to escape fascism in the United States, we would move to Germany.
Yeah, that would be.
And that was a really realistic possibility at the time. And it was about that time that I started coming here to teach at Harbor Space in 2017. So I came right after the inauguration of Trump. And then I started coming here. And so now we would come to Barcelona to escape fascism, not Germany, since we are comfortable here and really know the city. But it would have been really ironic to think that we would have had to go to Europe because of our worries about what was happening in the United States. And thank God Joe Biden won the election. It felt super close there for a little while. I mean, I think my friends and I were all fairly confident that he was going to win. The numbers looked really good, but the bullshit of this big lie that Trump told and continues to tell really damaged the fabric of our society. And I don't trust that we will continue to be a democratic society in the United States. It could go another way. Could easily, had Trump won another term, we could have really fallen into dictatorship and fascism, and had a lot of our freedom stripped away, and had a lot of our security stripped away. You don't think so?
I mean, I would be the last person to defend Trump because of how much pain and suffering he's caused for my country and my family. But I would be a bit more uncomfortable calling him a fascist or his cult. Let's just say.
But he allowed and continues to encourage racism and anti-Semitism and anti-immigrant sentiment to run wild. And the Republicans are as culpable because they are doing nothing to stop it.
That to me is wild. The fact that just to not lose the Trump base, I mean, makes sense, but it's wild that this is a thing.
Crazy.
Honestly, it's wild to me that America, I guess to the rest of the world, the number one image of freedom and democracy had these two people as their primary options in the elections. I was like, okay, this is the second election that I'm old enough to actually understand, and like I would not vote for any of those people in a normal world. Like I would not want any of the three people that have run for election over the past 8 years to be the leader of my country.
Yes, see, and I adored Hillary Clinton and adore Joe Biden and think that they're both amazing, brilliant, super smart people who are amazing managers, which I think is really important for a president. You know, people who can truly find the best people and amass the greatest cabinet and the greatest support team. And I think I'm confident Hillary would have been able to do that had she been given the chance. And I am loving what Joe Biden is doing in terms of who he has around him. And I'm such a liberal Democrat, you know, that I understand the very progressive wing. I understand what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants, and you know, others in the super liberal wing. I get that, and I don't disagree with that. I'm also a realist, and I think that Joe Biden, who is left of center, is doing everything that he possibly can realistically to really move the country forward. I love that he is spending the money that he's spending. I'm a big believer in social systems and social welfare. I'm a big believer in education and paid leave and anything that supports children, and like all of those social fabric pieces of the social fabric that we have not had, I think are so vital to our success. And I'm very excited that he's putting them in. Now, he may not get all of what he wants. He will not get all of what he wants, for sure. But wow, thank God he got his COVID bill through. Because look at this. Like here in Spain, probably waited another 6 months for my vaccine if I stayed here. Maybe more.
So you already got your vaccine?
No. I got called 2 weeks ago in Chicago. I mean, I'm not there, right? But 2 weeks ago, they told me I was eligible for my vaccine in Chicago. I will get my vaccine like the week I get back.
Yeah, the vaccine situation in Europe is appalling.
It's terrible.
It's appalling.
But it would have been terrible had Trump stayed in power too.
Of course.
I mean, disastrous.